Invest in stuff that's going to make you better. Again, it doesn't have to be us. It doesn't have to be group coaching. It can be a book. It can be a course. It can be a coach somewhere else, right? But at the end of the day, you have to invest in things that are going to make you better.
Work on your home, your proverbial home. Work on your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual value. Add value to yourself just like you would a home. And then maybe you'll be worth $2 million rather than $200,000.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, Next Level University Weekly Meetup Monday. For week number 61, we are going to talk to you about how to level up your wealth. So Next Level U is leveling up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. Today, we are going to talk about wealth. We don't learn a lot about money or wealth when in school. You don't really learn a lot about it. And today, we want to impart some wisdom upon you.
Mm-hmm. The first thing I'll say is just to mirror what Kevin just said, which is I remember early when I was 26 after my car accident, I went all in on personal development. And my main quote that I really, for Alan Lazaros LLC, before Kevin and I got together, was what you'll never learn in school but desperately need to know. And I did, high school, and then I went to college for undergrad, and then I went to my master's degree. I got my MBA. And I remember it wasn't until my master's degree that I actually took a course on entrepreneurship and on finance. And I found that so kind of messed up because here's the thing. Every single day, we all eat food, and every single day we all use money, and every single day we're in relationships, intimate friendships, business partnerships, all that. But yet we didn't learn a whole lot about those three things.
Yeah.
And that's why it's health, it's wealth, and it's love. So today is going to be about health, and we're going to go all in. So the key here is just stay curious, stay open-minded. Money's a taboo topic, but we would all be better with it if we were willing to talk about it more openly.
Boom. So my first question to you is, how easy is it to grow something that you're afraid of? Right? If you were afraid of a plant, you probably wouldn't grow it in your home because you wouldn't know how to do it and you wouldn't want to look at it. I was on the phone with a client recently, and I said, hey, how is your business doing? And she said, well, I feel like it's doing pretty good. And I said, okay, that's good. But what do the numbers say? Are you actually making more money than you did last month? And she said, honestly, Kev, I haven't tracked my finances for my business since I started it years ago. And I said, okay, well, even if you are winning, you're not going to know why, right? You're going to go by feeling, and we know that numbers never lie. So I actually got this person to track her bank account for her business for the first time in several years. It's no coincidence that the next month she had the best month she ever had. Okay? So the first thing I'm talking about is tracking your finances. Sounds simple, but it's one of those things. It's just like weighing yourself. You track your weight so you know what direction you're going in, right? Alan and I also track our relationships to figure out how our relationships are going. Okay? So we did an episode recently on this, or not recently, it's probably 75 or 80 ago at this point, but when I started tracking my finances, what I did was at the end of the month, I would go back and figure out how much money I spent on food. And I think one month I spent $650 on food. Now, if I didn't track that, I would never know. Last month, I spent $75 on coffee, right? So when this month started, I told Alan, I'm going to buy less coffee. If I don't go to Dunkin' Donuts, I'm saving $75 a month. What can I do with that $75? Can I spend it somewhere else that's smarter? Can I invest that money? What can I do with it? At the end of the day, if you're not measuring it, you probably aren't in control of it. And that is the beginning here.
One of the most fundamental things to understand about money is that money doesn't buy happiness, but it does buy choices. And if you make good choices that are aligned with your highest self, you will be happy. So I talk often about happiness, fulfillment, joy, things like that. Obviously on this podcast, we're often talking about that. Here's the thing. We all have heard that saying, money doesn't buy happiness, but I think that it's a little bit incorrect, and here's why. The absence of money does create pain. It does create a lack of the ability to make choices. I was taught from a very young age that you can be a CEO or you can be a farmer. My mom used to say this to me when I was a little kid. And if you aim to be a CEO and you aim high, you can wake up one day and decide to be a farmer, but it doesn't necessarily work the other way around. So she said, aim high and you'll have choices. And she was absolutely right. I did aim high. So this idea that money doesn't buy happiness, I've been playing this game with my clients lately a lot. It's called true, false, semi-true. money doesn't buy happiness. Ask yourself, is that true? Is that semi-true, or is that false? I would say it's semi-true. But let's create it a little more effectively. Money doesn't buy happiness, but it does buy choices. And if I make good choices, then I will be happy. We all know that living on the ocean in a mansion is going to make us a little bit more happy than living in a shack. Okay? We all get that doing a job we love is going to make us a lot more happy than doing a job we hate because we need the money. We all understand that travel and amazing experiences like skiing or snowboarding or, I don't know, a hot air balloon, these experiences, I know, right?
No, absolutely not. Pass.
Right? These experiences of life that often cost money can enrich your life. We get that, right? But here's the thing. Money doesn't buy happiness. I think that's a story we've told ourselves. Money doesn't guarantee happiness, and it doesn't. Kevin and I learned that the hard way. It does not guarantee happiness, but I promise you the lack of money will create pain, and that's very important to understand.
And what Alan's talking about is money is an external thing. Money can buy you things. It can buy you shelter. It can put you in different places, but at the end of the day, happiness is an internal game. So if you are relying upon money to fix anxiety or depression or a broken heart, it probably won't do that.
Right.
But what it can do is buy you nice things. It can buy you safety.
Yeah.
Right? It can buy you a lot of things. But that's the reason I was guilty of it. I thought that making six figures would make my insecurities go away. Unfortunately, it didn't. It actually made them a little bit worse. So I just wanted to chime in on that. So if you have ever watched any movie ever where there is somebody who is rich, usually that person is the villain in the movie. I can think of Richie Rich. Shout out to Macaulay Culkin. There's a lot of rich people in that are the villains, right? 101 Dalmatians. I believe Cruella de Vil.
Cruella de Vil.
Is that
yeah.
the name?
Yep.
I believe she is the villain of that movie. So anytime we're talking about money, anytime we're talking about anything really, the first thing that you need to do is figure out what your association with that thing is. Okay? So the reason I talk about the villains in movies, some of us assume money is the root of all evil. Some of us know people who have money and assume they're bad people. They look at the most wealthy people in the world and they say, oh, they're not giving back enough. They're not donating to charity. They're not fixing the world. So they might villainize money. So you have to get clear on your relationship with money. A lot of the people that I have worked with grew up broke. Alan and I didn't have a ton of money when we were growing up. And sometimes that manifests itself as, I can't make more money. I don't want to spend money. I'm not worthy to attract money into my life, right? Or I have to hang on to every single dollar I have. It creates scarcity. So the most important thing from my point of view when it comes to leveling up your wealth is figuring out where you currently are, where your relationship is with that money. If it's not in a good place, that's the place to work because you probably don't have great habits around it. We're going to talk more about that. The first step is always clarity, and then what do you do with that clarity comes next.
I was on the phone with a client. Had to be probably 2 months ago. It was actually two clients simultaneously. They were working together, and they were having trouble making more money. Again, how to level up your wealth. And I remember asking them, and I said, here's the thing. I don't know if you guys have spent a lot of your time studying money. Money is a language. Money is numbers. Money is mathematics. And I remember I had an ex-girlfriend back in high school who said, I hate math. And I remember sitting her down and I said, sweetheart, honestly, I think that you saying you hate math is going to cause a lot of pain in the future. Here's what I mean. If you understood that mathematics and loving numbers was actually going to give you a life of more wealth and more choices, then you'd probably love math. So the main point here is that everybody wants the fruit, but not everyone wants to study the root. And you can't have one without the other. Okay? So I tell this story about one of my main mentors. I remember I was basically at a family party, and this mentor of mine is dating my aunt, Jane, and we were at a golf course. And this is a big family get-together, and he had just bought a new Mercedes. It was like a really, really expensive, I think like $80,000+ Mercedes, blah, blah, blah. And I remember thinking to myself, this is fascinating, because this person doesn't strike me as someone who really cares that much about cars. But what I find fascinating is that a lot of other people, this car is amazing, and he was telling me this and that about it, and we went to see it. And a lot of people would be very envious of a car like this. But I remember this mentor told me my parents came from Germany after World War II with nothing. And they worked their way up. And he grew up with very little, similar to Kevin and I in many regards. And basically he decided from a very young age that he did not want to not have choices. He did not want to end up in a position where he didn't have enough money to make choices. He wanted his kids to be able to go to the best schools. He wanted to be able to live where he wanted. He wanted to not have to work a job, but choose to work a job because he had enough money to sustain his lifestyle. And so he spent his entire life mastering finances. See, everybody wants to live on the beach. Everybody wants a nice luxury car. Everybody wants the lifestyle. But not everybody wants financial mastery. So that Mercedes, that $80,000 Mercedes, this mentor, by the way, spends his time in the Bahamas. He writes books now. He worked his way up in corporate and eventually was the CEO of several billion-dollar tech companies. And that all sounds grand, but here's my point. He was driven by one simple idea. I want to master financial mastery so that I don't have to do anything. I get to live the life on my own terms that I really want. Imagine all of us have $1 million wired into our bank account right now. Hypothetical. Guess what? You don't have to work that job you don't want anymore. You don't have to live at that apartment you don't like anymore. You don't have to drive that car that might not get you there anymore. Money buys choices. And if you make good choices with money, you'll have more of it. And this is the key. Okay, so someone who didn't really care much about cars now gets to buy whatever car he wants because he focused on mastery, financial mastery. So my question for you, just like I told those two clients, how often have you studied money in your life? And they really had a moment with themselves of like, honestly, not much. I'm like, okay, well, you've both studied vulnerability. You've both studied physical health. You've both studied relationships. You've both studied all these other things that you've mastered. Where's the financial and business acumen? You want wealth, but have you studied it? Warren Buffett started studying finances at 7 years old. He reads something crazy, like 500 pages a day. I personally have read dozens of finance books. If you want to create wealth, you must decide in advance to study wealth. It's its own language. And if you have an aversion to math, just try your best to overcome that relationship, because I promise you, those people who are great at math, I went to school with many of them in college, all of them are doing well financially because math is money is a numbers game.
What resources would you recommend to learn?
Money Master the Game by Tony Robbins. He interviewed the 50 most financial masters on the planet. Unbelievable book. It's huge. It's a huge book. So if you want a smaller one, Unshakable by Tony Robbins. Rich Dad, Poor Dad also will help you with these concepts a lot. Brian Tracy has a great book. I think it's the 21 Ways to Wealth, something like that.
Remember, yeah.
And then Business Made Simple. Do you know who? Donald Miller?
Yeah, Donald Miller.
Donald Miller, Business Made Simple, will really, anyone who, even if you're not a business owner, one of our main mentors, Nick Cavuto, recommended this book. And Kevin and I were like, this is the fundamentals. It starts with character. That's my favorite part about it. It says character is the foundation. Then it goes into the business principles. Even if you're an employee or a team member, this will help you understand that each of us have a value to the marketplace. And that's something that we didn't get into yet. We're going to talk about it. But basically, you don't get paid by the hour. You get paid for the value you bring to the hour. Okay? So Tom Brady, for example, there's very few people who can be a quarterback like him. So there's millions of people who love football. There's a huge market for it. So 1 hour of his time is worth more to many people. So you got to kind of understand that you're not really getting paid for the time. You're getting paid for the unique skill sets that you possess, and those books are going to help you with that.
The Illusion of Money by Kyle Cease is a really good one.
For sure.
If you have any money blocks, I remember when Tara and I were in Vermont, I was literally listening to that on the dock, and it was like, this is an absolute fire book. We're going to have him on the show at some point.
I would love to.
We're going to have
Absolutely.
him on the show.
Yeah.
All right. So one thing that I have been guilty of in the past is the second I get an income bump, I also immediately bump up my expenses. So I remember back in the day when I got my job as a truck driver, I was working a lot of overtime, and overtime meant more money. The first thing I did is literally, genuinely the first thing I did. I got rid of my old car, and I went to the dealership and bought a brand new $33,000 or $34,000 car. Now, when I say I was making more money, I was making $13 an hour. Okay, I wasn't making a lot of money. But this is something that I have been very, very guilty of in the past, of making more money and then immediately bottlenecking myself by raising my expenses, right? I'd make money, get the car. I'd make more money, I'd get a new apartment. Consistently. That's kind of like the theme of my life. It has been for a long time. And since Alan and I have been working together, that's something that I've broken down. But stop trying to compete with everybody else. Like, just because you see people you know buying the house, going on vacations. I said this to Taryn the other day. She said, oh, look, this person's on vacation. I said, babe, we're going to go on all the vacations, but just not right now. Right now, we're investing in our future. Right now, we're building the business. The money's going to be there. The vacations are going to be there. Stop trying to keep up with the people that you follow on social media, because you don't know what their money situation is, right? A $2,000 mortgage, a couple $300 car payments, like, that's not the life that you want to live. Try to live under your means. I have somebody in my life who makes close to $200,000 a year, and he literally eats chicken patties 3 nights a week because they're cheap, right? He takes it to the extreme, but he's also extremely good with money. He is always thinking about how to level up his wealth. He doesn't have to. He could eat whatever he wanted every night, but he's literally eating chicken patties. It's a running joke, but it's also something I admire because I know he's doing it for the long run. So don't fall victim to trying to keep up with the Joneses. At the end of the day, you don't know what the Joneses' bank accounts look like.
So that person that Kevin just described, I know him well as well. He works in finance. He has a finance major, and or he went to school for finance, and then he works for a very big company in finance. And so he understands the compound effect of money. And again, it all comes back to study it. How can you – we all kind of get it, right? If you never study fitness, you're not going to be in shape. If you never study relationships, you're probably not going to have a fulfilling and magnificent marriage. If you never study money, you're probably not going to have a lot of it. There's a direct correlation to how curious you are about a topic and how much of it you master and proliferate. Okay, so I have a saying called develop an investor's mindset. An investor is someone who sacrifices short-term pleasure, aka eating chicken patties instead of steak dinners, for long-term gain. I want to try to bring a concept to everybody that's very, very simple, but emotions kind of get in the way. This is just logic, okay? And again, we're not here to tell you just what you want to hear. We're here to tell you what we believe will actually help you. Kevin and I, we asked each other our intentions before this. I said, I want to create a 1% tweak in the trajectory of anyone listening's life. Their financial future will be greater because of what we say on this. So this is what I'm going to tell you. You can either pay now, pay the price now, and play later at a greater level, or you can play now and pay later.
Ladies and gentlemen, one of the biggest issues for our listeners that we've seen is not everybody has people in their corner trying to lift them to the next level, and even the people who are trying to help don't always know how.
That's why Kevin and I created Next Level Group Coaching. It's a 3-month program on teams of 10 with all people committed to achieving their goals. Click the link in the show notes for more information.
And we only take 10 people at a time, so make sure you get in quick.
All right, have an investor's mindset. Chase, I have a credit card at a bank called Chase, or an investment firm called Chase. Okay. I got a credit card when I was 14 years old, and fortunately I was taught from a very young age some of these concepts. I have never once missed a monthly payment. I've paid the whole thing off every time in full my entire life. Here's why. In every interaction, there's someone who's winning more than the other person. And if you are paying something on a credit card, you're playing now and paying later. So remember, every time you play now, your future takes a hit. Every time. We all know that going to a barbecue is more fun than going to the gym. We all know it. Okay, but the person in the gym is going to be in better shape. Same thing goes for finances. Like Kevin mentioned, traveling. Okay? The people that are taking vacations with the very little money they have, rather than investing that money in the person's, places, things, and ideas that are going to build a brighter future, are going to pay for it later. And this is why some of the really successful people keep getting more successful. There's this interesting quote I heard a long time ago. They said if you took all the money in the world out of the hands of the people who had it and distributed it evenly, eventually it would all be back in the same hands. The reason why that is, okay? Now imagine this. We'll use fitness. I want you to imagine all of us stayed the exact same. And we waved the magic wand, and every one of us got in really good shape. Just overnight. Wave a magic wand. 2 to 3 years later, if none of our habits change, we're going to be right back where we are. It's called homeostasis. Your habits with money are creating the outcomes in the future. And remember that every dollar you spend today is actually $5 20 years from now. Okay? If you've ever invested in the stock market, you know this. Investing money in Apple rather than buying an iPhone, one of them's going to grow, the other one's a depreciating asset. Now, obviously, if you want an iPhone, that's great because that's a tool to also make money if you have a business and communicate with people. So there's a lot of nuances of this. Just remember the one simple thing of all this. If I am paying the price now, my future will be brighter. If I'm trying to play now, my future will take a hit. And I think it's really, really important to understand that. And it's logical, not emotional.
That's another important thing is stop making emotional choices.
Right.
In terms of like, do you really need that thing? Taryn and I the other night what were we going to do? I think we were going to go out to dinner, and I was like, honestly, we just bought food. Like, I know we want to go out. I know it's easier to have somebody cook for you. I know it's probably going to taste better, but like, do we actually need to spend the money and go out? That's like and honestly, for me, that's a conscious thing because I always want to get the food.
Right.
And I always want to, have it done for me because that's the way I am.
It's a choice.
It's a choice, but it's a hard choice for the kid. You know what I'm saying?
Appreciate your honesty.
Well, I try. Okay, so I've heard the quote many times that we all have the same 24 hours in a day. I don't believe that, and here's the reason why. Because you can buy more time. Okay? So, for instance, we have Ron and Aaron who do the audio editing and the video editing for Next Level University. They're amazing. We appreciate you. Shout out to you guys. Right now, they can be doing something while Alan and I are here. So we actually have more than 24 hours in the day because we can delegate a lot of stuff. Okay, so the example I like to use here is if you are like us, say you're an entrepreneur, and you have the opportunity to go mow your lawn or get a new client. Say it costs $50 to pay somebody to mow your lawn, and you can get a client for $100. Every single time, you should be getting the client for $100. So I was on the phone with somebody recently, and I was literally walking them through this, right? I said, what do you have to do today? And she said, well, I got to do yard work. I got to go do this. I got to go do this. I said, what if you spent those 2 hours prospecting for clients and you got somebody to pay you $100? You'd still make $125. And that's something that I know Alan has taught me, but I've taught a lot of people, a lot of my clients that the $50, the $75 that you're going to make is way better than you doing the thing in the first place. Yeah, you're not going to make the full amount, but where can you delegate? I talk to Taryn about this all the time. Like, I want to get food delivered from the store. I want to use Instacart because in the hour and a half that it might take to go to the grocery store, I can be working. I can be building the business, right? And it's like that for you out there too. So where can you delegate and how can you, quote unquote, buy yourself more time? As Dave Meltzer says, there's two things. There's activities you don't get paid for, and there's activities you get paid for. How can we increase the activities we get paid for while decreasing the other one?
All right, so we've talked a lot, and just so everyone understands, I'm more on the deeper understanding side. Kevin's more on the tactics side. This is how to level up your wealth, but we're also going to teach you why to do it, okay? Having a deeper understanding compiled or along with tactics is where your life's really going to change. So there's 3 master skills to wealth, and Kevin and I talk about these often behind the scenes, but we're going to start trying to talk about them more on the podcast. Number 1 is learning how to earn more money. So how do you become more valuable to the marketplace? Okay, he mentioned Aaron, our video editor. He's an awesome video editor. The better he gets at video editing, the more work he's going to get, the more he's going to get referred. The better we get at podcasting, the more valuable we are, the more valuable we are to speak. So we were very, very blessed to be paid $1,800 to speak last week. We didn't start there. I remember being a cart kid at a golf course for $7 an hour in Rhode Island. So when Kevin was sitting there talking about, okay, $50 to have someone mow your lawn, the other thing you have to realize is that person needs that job. When I was 14 years old or 16 years old, I had just gotten my license. I needed a job. $7 an hour was good for me back then. And also back then, that was minimum wage. But I needed that job. They're not doing me a disservice by paying me. I needed that job. So when you're mowing your own lawn and you're doing things you don't like to do, remember someone out there who does like to do that thing. Kevin spent 16 hours on one teaser clip.
Oh, it was brutal.
16 hours.
It was brutal. And I had to buy a new laptop because my laptop exploded.
Can you imagine how inefficient and ineffective we would be as business owners if we kept doing that?
Also, I had to kick the weed habit.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? There was weed happening. That might have been why it took me so long to edit the video, honestly.
I appreciate your honesty. But here's the point. You've got to learn how to become more valuable. No one starts out at $1 million an hour, right? You've got to learn how to add more value into the hour. I'm going to teach you guys something really, really important about earning more money. The first master skill, and if you're out there, write this down. First master skill is learn how to become more valuable. Learn how to earn more money. Okay? I want to teach you something really, really important. This is nothing against McDonald's, and this is nothing against anyone who works at McDonald's. I worked as a cart kid. I worked as a painter in Maine. I've done a lot of those kinds of jobs. Remember, if a lot of people have the skills necessary to do the job, it's a less valuable job. Bear with me. All right. I had a client who was an Android developer. Has been doing Android development for 15 years. Okay? The world desperately needs Android developers right now because technology is proliferating, and I think something crazy like 60% of the globe owns Android phones. Something crazy. Really? It's a lot. In America, I think the iPhone's bigger, but I think globally, Android's big. Okay, so there's a huge need in the marketplace, and he has this really, really, really important skill. And by the way, there's very few people, big need, there's very few people who have that skill at the level he does. He gets paid like $300 an hour. He should. He should get paid $300 an hour. When I got paid $7 an hour as a cart kid, I should be paid $7 an hour as a cart kid, at least back then, because anyone can be a cart kid. I know this sounds hardcore and it sounds intense, but it's the truth. And it's not going to help you for me to lie to you. If you want to become more valuable, you must develop skills that are desperately needed and that no one else has. Okay? Second master skill to money. Learn how to lower your expenses. So, first step, earn more money, learn how to earn more money. Second step, lower your expenses. What happens when your income goes up and your expenses go down? That's a lot of wiggle room. Third master skill, invest optimally. I'll give you a simple example of an investment. Let's say you are 25 years old and you make 60 grand a year and you keep your expenses low and you live on 30 grand. Okay, very hard to do that. You live on 30 grand, you make 60. Okay. That's a 30 extra grand. Let's say you do that for 3 years. Now you have $90,000. That's a down payment on a home. You buy a home that has two different sections of it. One of them you rent out, and you have a down payment, the mortgage is being paid by the other side. Okay? You work on the home. You keep investing. You redo the kitchen. You redo the bathrooms. You landscape, or you pay someone to landscape. Okay? You make the home more valuable. Okay, this is really, really important to understand. We all get it. We know what a $2 million home looks like versus a $200,000 home. Okay? Everyone picture that. What's the difference? One of them had far more investment. One of them has beautiful kitchen and a beautiful yard. And the basement's redone. And the roof never leaks. It was worked on consciously. Human beings are the same way. Okay, if one person buys a home and lets it depreciate and lets it go to crap and lets the weeds take the garden and doesn't redo the closets or the bathrooms and there's mold, it's not going to be worth much. The same goes for humans. Work on your closets. Make sure there's no mold in the roof. That's what we're doing at Next Level You. We want you to become more valuable. You. Next Level You. If you want to earn more money, learn how to spend less money and invest in your own personal development. I bought a course probably 4 years ago by Darren Hardy. It was 4 payments of $495, and I did not have a ton of money back then. Actually, I did, but I was running out. I didn't have a huge income. I should say that. I didn't have a huge income. I had a nest egg. That course, I am telling you, will make me hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. The investment you make in your own personal development. I am so much more valuable now at 32 than I was at 16 when I was a car kid. And when I was 19, I was painting homes in Maine. I went to college. Why do we go to college? To learn how to become more valuable, to learn how to develop skills, to network. Okay? Work on your home, your proverbial home. Work on your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual value. Add value to yourself just like you would a home. And then maybe you'll be worth $2 million rather than $200,000.
There have been times where I've been on Amazon, like having something in my cart and said, you know what? Now is not the right time. I have never done that with a book, ever. Whether it's Audible or iBooks, every time I have the opportunity to learn something new. And the thing is, it might not seem like it is valuable right away. You know, I've learned a lot about sales, whether it's Brian Tracy or Jordan Belfort or Grant Cardone or whoever it is. I've learned a lot about math now because of Alan. Does that seem like it pays off right away? No. But what Alan is saying is the accumulated knowledge you have determines your value. That's why we're way more valuable than we've ever been, because we know more than we ever have. Don't ever turn down the opportunity to invest in yourself when it comes to gaining more knowledge. I can't even point to the books now and say like, oh, that's what I've learned, right? But I know that when I was broke and I didn't have the money for $17 on an Audible credit, I always did it anyway because I genuinely believed that it was going to pay off. Invest in stuff that's going to make you better. Again, it doesn't have to be us. It doesn't have to be group coaching. It can be a book. It can be a course. It can be a coach somewhere else, right? But at the end of the day, you have to invest in things that are going to make you better. Invest in things that are going to bring money your way. I know it's so hard to do. And when Alan said lower his expenses, okay, and this is going to sound like blasphemy, get rid of Netflix if you don't need it. Genuinely. Like Taryn and I both had Netflix. I got rid of it. I don't need Netflix. She has Netflix. Right? The things that have made us so incredibly comfortable also cost money. So if you're really trying to level up your wealth, if you're really, maybe you're saving for a house, you're saving for a wedding, you're saving for this or that, get rid of the inessentials. YouTube TV, I have YouTube TV, $70 a month or $65 a month. If things ever got really bad, I would get rid of that. Right? That's a lot of money. Netflix is, I think, $13 a month now. Right? Understand, and this is a whole nother thing. Understand the subscription things that you have. That stuff adds up.
Oh, yeah.
That adds up quick. When that Amazon 99 comes in once a year, it's like, oh, yeah, I forgot I was paying for that.
You can switch it to $7 a month or something like that.
Excuse me?
Yeah, you can switch it.
Well,
yeah.
So, yeah, understand. Back to clarity. Understand how many subscriptions you have and where your money is actually going every single month. That adds up. We have, my goodness, we have 11 email addresses. We have YouTube, like all these things, but we have an eye on where it's going. So that's very, very important.
So I have a bonus, and the bonus is wealth is a decision that you make in advance. This sounds a little bit weird. I'll tell you a brief story. I remember I was in the gym. This was a long time ago. This was before Kevin and I got together. And I was very focused on wealth at the time. I was still in corporate. And I just started working out. It was like not long after my car accident. When I was 26, I think I was 27 at this time, or 26 and a half. And I remember I was in the gym and I was talking to this guy, and I'll keep it anonymous, and he said, I'm never going to be rich. And I remember thinking to myself, like, why did he say that? Why not at least open yourself up to the idea that you could get wealthy? I know someone right now who makes, I don't know, probably like 17, 18 bucks an hour, who genuinely, with her current investments, is going to be a millionaire probably by the time she's 45, 50. And not by luck. It's a mathematical certainty. Do not tell yourself the story that you're never going to master money. If you do, you'll be running that story for the rest of your life. This person who said, I'll never be rich, literally, that's like saying I'm never going to drive a car and then expecting the benefits of traveling in a car. It makes no sense. We all understand the reticular activating system, okay? Let me explain this quickly. Who here has an ex-boyfriend or an ex-girlfriend where they see their car sometimes. They see the car they used to drive.
Oh, for sure.
Okay. That's your reticular activating system. That type of car, for me, my first girlfriend drove a Saturn. It was a black Saturn. Whenever I see those, I always think of her. It's a trigger. Okay? Not a bad one. We're in a good place. But your reticular activating system picks up on things, the person's, places, things, and ideas that it deems relevant. We interviewed Stephen Kotler this past week. It just dropped yesterday. And if you're listening to this last week, he talks about how there's only 300 bits of information that we can really consciously focus on at any given time. So if Kevin and I are both talking at the same time, it's going to be much harder to deduce what we're talking about, which sometimes we do.
Oh, for sure.
And if a third person was talking simultaneously, it would be too much. It would overload us. And he talks about that in that episode. There's so much information around us all the time, constantly. We're being bombarded with texts and emails and cars and clothes and commercials and new movies and all this stuff all the time. Okay, we're drowning in information. If you decided in advance that you're not going to be rich, you literally will shut off your reticular activating system to create any identification of anything that could get you there. Kevin and I decided in advance to be wealthy. Health, wealth, and love. Healthy, wealthy, and madly in love. We decided in advance. Guess what happens? The persons, places, things, and ideas to get us there pop into our mind. We have a mentor named Nick Cavuto who does more money per month than probably 10 times what we do. And we're learning about business from him. Philosophical question for this intelligent audience. If we didn't decide in advance to be wealthy, would we have noticed Nick Cavuto? Would we have had the courage to ask him for a biweekly call or a weekly call at this point? Would we invest that time? Would we come up with good questions? The answer from my perspective is no. Don't tell yourself a story that you'll never be wealthy because you're shutting off the possibility with that very story. This person I'm talking about will never be wealthy unless he changes that mindset. I picked up on it back then, and I'll pick up on it now. And this is the relationship to money. Decide in advance. I don't know how. I'm going to do it. But I'm going to be wealthy. I'm going to make the choices now that build a brighter financial future. And if you do that, I promise you'll notice the courses. You'll notice the books. You'll notice the mentors. You'll notice everything. You'll notice all kinds of opportunities. Imagine a hunter hunting deer. He's going to notice any deer in the distance. That's how we're wired. We're all hunter-gatherers. Just choose in advance to be wealthy, and I promise you your life will change.
And it's a skill at the end of the day. It's a skill. And I'll speak to the other side of that. When you're focused on leveling up your wealth, you're going to spend money differently. Every time I go through Dunkin' Donuts now, it's not unconscious. I'm not just pulling through. I realize that's $3.71. Like, is that $3.71 worth that right now?
Yes.
Today, Today, when I didn't sleep a lot last night, yes, it was worth it. But stop unconsciously spending money. That's another one, too, especially for me, because it's like, $5 for this movie? Yeah, let's hammer that.
Yeah.
Let's do 4 of them.
Autopilot can be dangerous.
Yes, it can.